So we're moving to solving linear system, and now we're going to start with our new method, which is called elimination. So we learned how to solve by graphing, we learned how to solve by substitution, and now we're going to learn how to solve by elimination. What does the word elimination mean? To get rid of, exactly. So what we're doing here, we're going to get rid of a variable. Okay? So remember that in every single equation we have two variables. We have the variable x and we have the variable y. So we're going to pick one of the variables and we're going to get rid of it. Now there is math involved in that. We can't just say, here, let's erase it and move on.
That's how you
right?
define variables still, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to identify variables still, right?
The variables are already given, they're x and y. Okay? So we're gonna get rid of a variable by, do you guys find it? Yes. Okay. So we're gonna get rid of a variable by either adding or subtracting. Okay? Adding or subtracting the two equations. So, we are given two equations. So for example, example 1, we have 3x minus 4y equals 14, and 3x plus 7y equals negative 8. First thing, you have to make sure that they're stacked on top of each other, the x on top of the x, the y on top of the y, the equal sign on top of each other, and then the number on top of each other at the end. Okay? So you have to make sure that they line up. If they don't line up, you have to fix them. So I'm going to have to write them and make sure when I'm writing them that I'm putting the x's on top of each other. So you see how the 3x is on top of the x, and then the y is on top of the y, and the equal sign on top of each other? They're lining up? Good. Now, what do you notice about the terms for both equations? Do you notice anything special?
They are light terms.
Which ones?
3x also, 3x.
Okay.
And we can eliminate this by subtracting.
That's exactly correct. So you see that the x term in the first equation and the x term in the second equation, they have the same coefficient, right? If that happens and they have the same coefficient, if I want to eliminate, what I can do is I can subtract these two equations. Because when I do 3x minus 3x, what do I get? 0.
It's cancelled.
It's 0, right?
Cancelled.
So I eliminated the x. I don't have any x anymore by just simply doing subtraction. Now, because I'm doing subtraction, I have to do it for all of the equations.
Certainly.
Okay? I can't do it only for one letter. So 3x minus 3x, so that's 0x. I don't have to write it.
Okay.
Then I have negative 4y minus 7y. You have to be careful because I'm subtracting. Okay? So negative 4y subtract 7y. What do I get? I'm waiting for you guys. Negative 11y. So the negative 4y subtract 7y. So that's negative 11y. Then 14 subtract negative 8. What do you get?
22.
22. Now I want you to look at this and see I only have one term with a letter and the other term is a number, correct? Yes? Now, to isolate for y, what do I have to do?
Divide by minus 11.
Divide by negative 11, right? Because I want to get rid of that negative 11 that's right multiplied by the y. Okay? So I have to divide by negative 11. So, for the variable, all what I have to do is, using this equation, I'm gonna divide by -11. So y equals -2. Done. That is the answer for y. Now I have to find the answer for x, right? Now, to do that, I'm gonna have to plug in the value of y back into one of the equations, right? Now I can plug it into the first one or into the second one, it doesn't matter, right? Technically, we should choose the simpler one, but in this case, they're both the same thing.
Yes.
Doesn't matter.
Where are difficult?
So, I'm gonna plug it into the, so I have 3x plus 7 times -2. So I replaced y with a -2 equals -8. So that's 3x minus 14 equals -8. Bring the -14 over, it becomes positive 14. So that's going to be 3x, I forgot that, equals 6. And then divide by 3, so x equals 2. Do you guys understand that?
You still had to do substitution in the end.
I just did a substitution of one variable. So you see how y is equal to -2?
Yeah.
To x's, I have to pick one of these equations, plug in the value of y into it, and then solve for x.
Okay.
So it's kind of a substitution, but not as complicated as the other substitution.
Yeah, I noticed, because that looks more like a straightforward kind of approach.
Mm-hmm. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to check the solution. So the solution is y equals -2 and x equals 2. So what I want you to do, I want you on the next page. So if you go to the next page. No. Yeah. No, not this one. This one. So you're gonna check your solution. Okay? So the equations were what? 3x plus x. Go ahead.
3x minus 4y equals 14. 3x plus 7y equals -8.
Okay, now the solution that I got was 2 and -2.
-2, yes.
So x is 2, y is -2.
X was 6 and then a
No, 6 divided by 3.
Oh, I didn't know.
2 and -2.
So 2 and -2. So I'm gonna plug in 2 for x and -2 for y. So that's 6 plus 8. Are you guys okay with that?
Yes.
And then the same thing for the second equation, so plug in 2 for x, -2 for y. 6 minus 14 is equal to -8. So again, left side equals right side. So that means my solution is true. And I can say that my BOI is 2
And -2.
-2.
Sorry.
No.
No?
Okay, okay.
Of course,
Okay, now we're gonna go to the second example. So again, it's very important that you line up your terms. Okay? So the y's has to go under the y's and the x's has to go under the x's. If you have to, sometimes you have to do where you bring some of the terms to the other side of the equality. Okay? So let's go back here. So I'm gonna write the first one as is. Now, second one. How would I write it?
We can take other side. 2y.
What is the x term in the second one?
This is 4x.
So I have to start with 4x. Then where's the y term?
Minus 2y.
So I have to write minus 2y. And then equal
Minus 4.
negative 4. I didn't switch anything from one side to the other, right? They stayed on the same side. That's why the sign doesn't change, right? 4x is positive, it stays positive. Negative 2y is negative, it stays negative. I did not bridge them to the other side, so it doesn't change any sign. Now, which term have the same coefficient? X or y?
Y.
Y.
Same,
One has
same coefficient.
2 and negative 2,
Yes.
right? So to get rid of the y, what do? Do you add
Add.
or do you subtract?
You have to add. You have to add both coefficient.
That's right. Now remember in the first term we subtracted, right? We subtracted because they both have the same sign. So both are 3x, 3x. So we subtract to get rid of it. In this case, you have a positive and you have a negative. So they're opposite signs.
Yes.
Once they're opposite signs, you can add. Because when adding 2 minus 2, they're going to be gone. They're going to cancel each other. So in this case, I have to add. So when I add, what do I get? X plus 4x is
5x. 5x.
the 2y plus negative 2y.
5.
No,
No, I mean,
zero.
sorry. Is equal to y. I mean, equal to
Is equal to
y.
5.
Y. X is equal to y.
Are we following?
Yes.
Okay. Now, to get rid of the, to isolate for the x, what do?
Divide by, what is x by 5?
Divide both sides by the 5, right? So that means I have to so I get x equals to 1. Are we okay with this?
Right.
Now, I found the x value. How can I find the y value?
You can put this value in the one of the coefficient.
That's right. I can substitute this value into one of the original equations. Which one do you pick? It doesn't matter, right?
Yes.
The simpler one, at the end, they're both the same. I'm going to pick the first one.
Yes.
So I have we're going to have to replace the x by 1. Bring the 1 over, so that's 9 minus 1, which is 8. And then divide by 2, which is 4. that my POI here is 1 and 4. So we're gonna take that and then we're gonna try to prove it.
Check.
Check it. So the equations are what? X plus 2y equals 9. Is that right? And then 4x minus 2y equals to -4. And then my POI is 1, 4. Okay? Plug in 1 for x, plug in 4 for y. So 1 plus 8 is 9. So left side equals right side. Do the same thing for the second equation. Again, I proved that I checked and then the left side is equal to the right side. So that's good. Now all what you have to do, you have to state your POI. So the point of intersection is 1,